Hey everybody, Big Pete here. I'm here again at 850 Armor Works doing some more construction on the adult Death Trooper. In this video we're going to be going ahead and going over the shoulder bells, the biceps, and the forearms. The biceps are super easy. We're going to go ahead and trim those out. The shoulder bells are super easy. We're going to go ahead and trim those out. These are going to be just slightly more difficult, but I'm going to show you a method for making these come out really, really well. So we're going to go ahead and start off with these. For this, you're going to need the clamps and your straight edge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clamp my straight edge right along the seam that I want to cut. So go ahead and kill this mosquito. Got it. So you want to make sure you get it real nice and clamped real well. You don't want it to shift while we're cutting it. If you have a smaller straight edge, it should be fine. These things aren't that big. Use what you got. Then drop a couple clamps here in the middle. Alright, now that I've got everything clamped really well, I'm going to do the scoring and snapping method. The reason why we did this first is so that we have an extremely straight edge. It's going to look a lot better with really sharp edges on all of these things. So I just go ahead and score from the top side, following along with the ruler that we put on it. Once that's good, take your clamps off. Mosquitoes are out in a fury today. Then all I'm going to do, I'm going to snap, snap, done. Perfect edge. I love it. I use that method exclusively for doing the shins and the forearms. It gives you such a beautiful line. I mean, you can't get more perfect than these lines that you get from using a straight edge. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side, and then I am going to take off all of the return edging off of both this side and this side by just going ahead and taking my razor and cutting from the inside along the line. Going ahead, giving it relief cuts at the corners because scoring and snapping does not work on corners. And I forgot to score there, but you'll get the point. We'll go ahead and try and do it. There we go. Just go ahead and bend it. And if you don't have enough reliefs, you might need to cut another couple. There we go. Bam. Coming right off. Nope, I forgot to score there. But as you can see, I took off most of the return edge. I left a little bit on here just to make it a little more rigid so it's not so floppy. But I'm going to go ahead and remove all the return edges off anywhere that doesn't have a one of the little fake cover strips. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this one up, doing the same exact method I just showed you. And then we'll trim these the same exact way as well. We're going to go ahead and straight edge, take off all the return edging here, all the edging in here. You can leave a little bit of a return edge here if you'd like, but we're going to cut it off. So I'll pick the video back up once I get that done. All right, so everything's trimmed out. Now these will fit together really, really well. Just on their own. The overlaps fit perfectly into each other. You're going to want to overlap this section. This is the outside of your body section. So this is your right arm. go like that, so that's towards the outside. This part over the inside portion, so you don't want any exposed seams facing outwards. Like that. Now you can glue these together just like they are, and put some padding in if you have small arms or whatever. They're large enough for just about anybody's size. If you're smaller, if you have shorter forearms, you can trim down from this section, right? So if you need to remove an inch or two, go to the notch, right? Remove each notch until they're short enough for you. If you need to make it skinnier because you have really, really skinny arms, what I would recommend is gluing the top portion of it. So again, here's your right arm, is gluing this section, and then on the bottom portion, just suck it in. And what you're going to do is you're going to end up having to cut off this cover strip. That's not really a cover strip, it's just a joining part. And that'll allow you to suck in the bottom. If you have to suck in more than, I'd say, an inch or so, because this is butted up, once you start sucking in, you're losing detail. Right? If you have to do more than an inch, you don't want it to look like this. That would look silly. So if you have to do more than that, you're going to have to take some in from the other side and kind of even it out if you have a really small wrist. So I am going to go ahead and cut off the inside portion of here because I feel these are too big for my arms. So I'm just going to quickly cut off this strip. There we go. These things are the same on either arm. It doesn't really matter which one you use. They're exactly the same. These, on the other hand, are different. This detail piece is going to be your left arm. And this detail piece is going to be your right arm. So if you see them side by side, that's the difference. So we'll take this on our right arm. It's the right arm detail piece. What I would do is, now if you want to size them up a little bit, you can take some painter's tape or something, works really well, and just basically tape together your pieces. And the painter's tape won't leave any residue or anything like that. And test fit it before you cut it, right? Figure out where you want to actually have everything fit together before you glue it, because once you glue it, it's done, unless you use E6000 and then you can take it apart. That fits my arm. Oh, tape came off, but that fits my arm a lot better, so I'm happy with that. That's good for me. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the top. Now you can leave the bottom open if you want to, and just use Velcro. I'm going to glue both of my sides just because that's how I like it. If you think you might have trouble getting this on and off, or can't fit your hand through the hole if you trimmed it too much, leave the bottom open with Velcro, and then you can put it on that way and it'll make it much easier. So this is my right arm, fits really well. My left arm, I'm going to do the same thing, except it's going to be a little bit opposite. This is my left arm. Again, I put my hand in it and I got a ton of room. So what I want to do is I'm going to remove, I'm going to glue the top just like it is, but then on the bottom portion, I'm going to suck the bottom portion in. So obviously on the left hand, the detail runs up here. On the right arm, it runs into the bottom. But we're going to remove our material from the bottom and just shrink that in. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off, get that all wrapped up, and then glued together. All right, so I got the right arm all glued together. A little bit of accelerator right there. That's what it looks like. No return edging at all on this entire thing. Any return edging is going to snag and not feel good. So it's all gone. I left that like that, even though I cut this part off, just because in the CRL you'll see that it is a flat piece and not curved over. So that's that arm. On this arm, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. This is my left arm. This is it together without any cutting, any gluing. I'm going to go ahead and remove the cover strip off of this portion right here. It off. And just for good measure, I will make sure that everything fits, because you always want to make sure it fits before you glue it. That's about what it'll look like. Wrong arm. Yep, that should fit just fine. Alright, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this. I'm going to remember it's this section over the other section. So I'm going to put some glue on the top portion of here. Go ahead and stick them on together. Spray some accelerator in there, get some on my hands, and it immediately started to dry, so that's fantastic. Alright, that portion is nice and glued. Make sure you don't touch your armor with any gluey fingers, because it will stick right onto the armor and look terrible. Now that that section is good, I'm going to test fit it one more time. And it seems to fit just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this together. And then I'm going to trim out the shoulder bells. Shoulder bells are, I mean, just really, really simple. You don't really need return edging. You don't want any return edging on the top portion, because that's the part that's going to be kind of rubbing. And so yeah, I'm going to trim these out and I'll show you when I'm done. Alright, so the shoulders are all done. There's very minimal return edging. If anything, a return edge on here, really from about here up. You don't want much of a return edge. You're going to want to go right to where these lines start. You'll see on the mold that it extends past it when you get it, and there's not really a good cut line. But just basically go to where these start, and then keep it fairly straight and flat from there on over to where it starts curving. So I did both of these. There's both your shoulder bells. They're not interchangeable. One is on the left, one is on the right, and I'll go over that in a minute. So those are good. We got forearms good. Now we need the biceps. So you're going to get your biceps like this. They're going to be going to come just like this. So we're going to go ahead and cut these guys out. These again are going to get no return edging, and I'll show you how to assemble them once you get them cut out. Alright, so I got the biceps all trimmed out. There's no return edge on the bottom. There's almost no return edge on the top. These are cut down. This one you're looking at right here is my left. This is the left one. You're going to put this one over this and glue it. It only glues in the front. This part's left open, so it makes it really, really easy. So obviously, make sure you try and have as straight of a line as you can before you glue everything together. Glue it and you're done. That's a different one. Different kit. This is my right one. The patterning right here goes towards the front, so that's how you kind of can tell which one's which. So this one's my right because the pattern goes towards the front. You can't really mix these up because they don't fit on the other one. It'll be like upside down and backwards. So it's really easy to tell which from which. As long as you realize that that's the front, you're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these together. Now, when you're fitting these together, you might notice that one of them might overhang, like they don't exactly bunt up. All you got to do is glue it and then just nip off the edge of wherever it might not be. You know, if it meets up here, nip off the bottom. If it meets down here, nip off the top. Whatever, whichever one. Just make it look even, make it look like the picture. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those, and yeah. Alright, so everything's all glued together and nice. As you can see, that's about what the kind of cover strip looks like. You want to make sure it's nice and straight. The score and snap method works really well to keep it nice and straight. Yeah, that's both of them right here. Now what I was talking about where you might need to even it up, I don't know if I can get it good in the shot. See, that one's kind of extending. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip that real quick. You can use a razor blade or scissors or pretty much anything. All we're doing is just evening it up. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now it's nice and even, nice and flush. We're gonna do the same thing to the other one. Just even it up real quick. Nice and even. Alright, so that's those. You'll know which one goes with which. Again, this part goes towards the front. You'll know which one's which because the shoulder bell, when you put it on it, the lines will match up. So as you can see right here, the lines don't match. But if we were to take our other shoulder bell, there, see how this line continues right over into here? That's how we know which shoulder goes with which bicep. So obviously this is the left, this is going to go on, and then this shoulder belt will attach up here once we get into the strapping videos. So that's one, and then you'll see on the other real quick that the lines all match up when you have the right shoulder to the right bicep. Forearms, shoulders, biceps. All right, the last little bit we have to do on the wrists is just assemble the wrist rockets. They come in 3 pieces with a little mount, and all we're going to do is we're just going to rub and buff these. Nothing special. If you want to sand them down a lot and finish them out, give them a smoother look, that's totally fine. But we're just going to kind of leave it the way it is, and we're going to rub and buff it and go from there. All right, now that I found my rub and buff, I can start this. I always end up putting stuff down in the shop and losing track of it. So, as I showed in a lot of the other videos, rub and buff is really nice and it's really easy to use. Just put a little bit on and just work it in. Gives it a really good polished look. Nice real metal look at least. So you can see how that's coming along. It's starting to look pretty good. You can use more or less rub and buff on it, depending on what kind of look you're going for. If you're going for, freshly milled aluminum, you might want to go a little heavier on it. If you're looking for a little bit more weathering on it, go a little bit lighter. Use the ridges in it to your advantage, because that'll give you a more weathered look right there as well by just using the the ridging in the in the model. So, you know, weather it to how you want it. It doesn't have to be perfect. The suits are supposed to be like they've been worn, right? They're not supposed to look like, you know, Death Star troopers where everybody hasn't seen any action and, you know, nobody has scratches on their armor. You know, it's supposed to be a little banged up, a little dirty, to an extent. I think the CRL says moderately weathered. That's up to interpretation. But you know, use your best judgment. Alright, that's about it. I think it looks pretty good. I might go in there a little more detail. I'm going to finish up the other three. I'm also going to rub and buff this guy. This is just where it attaches to. I went ahead and I sanded it down just a little bit, but it's not going to be shown. So just rub and buff this guy, and then we're going to glue them all together. Alright, so we got everything rub and buffed, and it looks real nice and shiny. Looks pretty good. Alright, then what we're going to do is we're going to glue them on, and then we're going to put the last couple details on the wrists. So you have a right and a left. The right one is going to have the portion going downwards towards the bottom, and the left one, which is the one we're going to be working on, has the detail that goes like so. So on this guy right here, this is your left one, and what's going to happen is these are going to go right about here or so, and we're going to just go ahead and glue those on. And we're also going to take our rubber stripping. There's a couple different makers of this stuff. You can get some stuff at a hardware store if you want, or I know there's a couple guys who are making a nice little rubberized one you can get. Check out the boards for those. We're just going to stick on this rubber siding, and it's going to go around the first little indentation right here, and then the second one right here. So past the little inward groove onto the onto here, right onto here, and then here. So the first and the second one, and then we're gonna line up our cut edge, just so it's hidden at one of the seams. And I'm just gonna use the sticky stuff that came with it. I'm not going to go do anything too much on these, so. Try and line it up the best I can. So you know what, I'm going to put it right here. And if you're using the stuff that's sticky on it, make sure you're pressing down really nice and hard, and try and get it as straight as you can. It'll look a lot better than if it's all wavy and jagged. So, mosquitoes. Alright, I'm happy with that placement. Go ahead and snip it. This might be easier with a razor blade, but I got it. So there's one. Then I'll go ahead and do the second one right below that one, and then I'll show you there. All right, so I got the rubber on. Looks pretty good, I think. The opening's at the bottom, so when it's on, you can't really see it anywhere unless you're tilting your arm upside down. All right, so on the same forearm, we're gonna be putting this. We're gonna put it right about here. It's about halfway halfway or so from the rubber in the other end. And all we're going to do is we're just going to super glue this sucker on. It's not going to touch in all the places. If you really wanted to, I guess you could kind of hollow a cavity out or whatever. But we haven't had any issue just kind of sticking on the best stuck side. So that's what we're going to do. And I think that'll work just fine. So, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue on. Again, don't, if you painted these, make sure you sand down the part that you're going to stick onto your armor. So then we can give it a little spray. And then I'm just pushing down so that it adheres to the armor better. There we go. Those guys are on. I think it looks pretty good. And that's it for the forearms. And thanks for joining me in this video. If you're not already, please give me a like, give me a subscribe. Check out 850 Armor Works. I'll put a link down below, and we'll continue on this this adult Death Trooper build video in the next videos. So please stay tuned.